Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know how beautiful the weather is, and it's a little bit difficult to bring ourselves into an auditorium when it's the way it is. So hopefully we're going to be dialing up this kind of weather for the next couple months, and we'll just not have to worry about it. So, my name is Lisa Roman. I'm one of the counselors here, as you can see on the screen. Well, we just went past it, but this is the alpha split for the current senior class. We do have different alpha splits that vary just a little bit for each of the other classes, but given that typically seniors and parents are usually the ones that are in the audience for this type of a presentation, we only listed that one. Before we get started, we did a little bit something different this year with some scrolling slides for those that were kind of just waiting for the presentation. So there were just a couple things on it I wanted to mention, as I don't know that it's in the presentation. Mainly, something new we're doing this year is a college application processing form. That's something just to kind of keep everybody on the same page, a good checks and balances. So this will be a form that will be online and on paper for whichever way a student wants to use it. But anytime a student is applying to a college that they want us to act on their behalf, which is, sending a transcript, uploading a transcript, letter of recommendation, etc., they would need to complete that form, just so that we are all on the same page and nothing gets missed. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, which is, which applications you should use. Definitely the Common App. We would definitely encourage the Common Application for students that are applying to a mix of private and SUNY colleges. The SUNY application can be used for only SUNY. You could also use the Common App for that, but the SUNY application is a tad bit simpler. So if you're applying to only SUNYs, we would encourage you to use that one. And then if you are applying to community colleges, they are typically free on the college's website. We wouldn't want you to go to the SUNY application and pay for a Cayuga Community College application, for example, because you would end up paying if you went through SUNY. So we would encourage, if there are any community college applications, to do it right through their own website. So there's that. And then lastly, we wanted to just talk about this. This just came out yesterday. It's a SUNY's free application week. We had some panicked people saying they thought it was like now. It's not now, it's in October. So October 21st through November 3rd. And that is exciting because each application, I believe, is $50 unless they've raised it. So you can apply to up to 5 SUNY campuses for free during that time, and you can use either application, the Common App or the SUNY app. So I did want to just highlight those things before I get rolling on the other piece. I will be doing a brief presentation on just the nuts and bolts of our processes for college applications, and then I'll be introducing the real reason why you're here, and that's the financial aid piece. So we're excited for that. All right. Okay. So just really quickly, students are evaluated by colleges all different ways: transcripts, letters of recommendations, essays, SAT scores, ACT scores. You can see that some of them, if required, some of those, depending on the school you apply to, may not be requiring all of those things. So it's really important that you as the student is the expert on that. This is your time to be doing your research, creating your spreadsheets and ways to keep yourselves organized so that you know for every college you apply to what is required. Okay, what should seniors be doing right now? It looks like a long list. It's probably not as daunting as it looks, but we do want every one of our seniors to meet with us individually for their senior review. At the senior review, we talk about finishing up graduation requirements, giving the student a look at their transcript to show what it is they've completed, and so that everybody's crystal clear what classes are still required in order to graduate. So there's that piece of it. And then the other piece is very simply a talk about careers and college and what does the student need from us and where are they. So that's really important. We encourage students to do that by either stopping into our office and making an appointment during one of their study halls or free time, or emailing us. We have students email us all the time to set that up. So we encourage that. Again, we're researching our options. We're narrowing down choices in the fall. Visiting colleges. So I know a number of people often visit schools in the summertime, which is a great time because we're less busy as far as students in school. It's wonderful to be able to visit campuses in the fall too, so that you can really see that campus in action. You want to be able to see, does it look like a campus where students are thriving, vibrant? Are they staying on the weekends, or are they going home on the weekends? If you can get a flavor of that by visiting the actual campus when students are there, that is really ideal. But we also have colleges that visit us in the fall and in the spring. So that will start on Monday with our first college rep coming. Students will be able to come and talk to those reps. We really do encourage that. It is surprising to us that when these schools are coming and they're wanting to meet with our students, their potential students coming, that sometimes they have nobody to talk to, and we know that students are interested in those schools. So we really do try to encourage students to, whatever the barriers are. Sometimes students are nervous, they don't know what to say, they're nervous they might say something that might hurt their chances. But really, it's just a wonderful way to get to know a college representative. They usually do all the talking if they can tell a student is not really sure, and they can just share information about their programs and ask a little bit about your interests and what you might be looking for. And it's really just a wonderful way to practice talking to an adult in that position. And also, they often will keep reminders or keep tabs on students they have met with, and sometimes that really does influence. If a student is being looked at and for certain things, or maybe even scholarships, a student might get a nod for all the types of ways they've demonstrated interest in their school. Now, this presentation will be shared in the Google Classrooms for the senior class and the junior classes. We do have those set up because there's just so much more that's happening from our department, I guess, during those years. If there is anyone here from the freshman or the sophomore class who would like a copy of this presentation or the financial aid presentation or any of the documents we share, you can reach out to the student's counselor, or the student can. But we do have all these links oops, I can't open it here, but you can, I promise, when it's, oops. Okay, sorry. Okay, so that's about the college reps. We encourage students to definitely take note of that. They are on the announcements. We did send it home with that senior guidebook or the newsletter that we sent home, so all of that information can be found there too. So SATs and ACTs, if students are taking those, and we do encourage it for colleges that require them, obviously, but many colleges are still not requiring them, but making them optional, which just means that if a student provides that score, the college will use it as part of their admissions process, typically to help a student, but students are not required to submit it if they feel that their courses and their performance alone is better than what their scores would indicate. But just a little bit about the October and November tests that we are offering here at Oswego High School. The deadline for both of those October tests is tomorrow, so that's just to note that. For college letters of recommendation from a counselor, there is a survey that we require. Again, you can find that in the Google Classroom, the students can, and for the seniors. And we've shared that also in an email before, but that's where they can find it. And then we are taking students, for those who are just still unsure about what colleges they might want to be applying to, but they know they would like to go. There is a college fair coming up in October at Keeley Community College, and we are taking students to that. So if students are interested in doing that, they're probably only missing about 2 hours worth of school, 1 hour at the fair, and a little bit of time to get there and back. So if you're interested in signing up to go to that college fair, please do sign up in the counseling office by October 7th. And then just including a safety school, a school you know for sure that you can get into, that you'd be happy going to. Getting started, we already talked about the types of applications: Common App, SUNY App, community college applications. We talked about the application processing form. And then we encourage students, once they do apply, it does take time for the colleges to receive and download everything that they're accepting, but we do encourage students to follow up to make sure that things were received. Thanksgiving vacation is always a good goal deadline for regular applications that have deadlines beyond that, of course. If you're applying earlier, then obviously you would need to do that sooner. Okay, so what are we doing besides this presentation? We sent out the Senior Fall Newsletter, which is a very long and very involved document that has a lot of information in it. So we hope that you were able to look at that, or you will. Senior Seminar Survey is something we sent out last week to our seniors, asking them for feedback and specifics on what they are needing and what they are asking from us. And then we are tailoring our presentations next week in English classes based on what we're hearing from our students. Senior reviews we talked about, college rep visits, we've arranged those for our students, and then we will start doing our college and career help sessions. Any students who need help with any application, it could be a job application too, we are available during lunch periods and after school on Tuesdays, and we are going to do it, we're experimenting with a new location. We're actually going to do it right outside of where we are right now. In that open foyer, there's a table and chairs. It's always very quiet during the day, so we're going to be there. So we're very visible, we're very accessible to students. So that is something we hope students will take advantage of too. And just really, we're just coaching. We're coaching students through the process. Parents, many of you are here. What can you be doing besides supporting your students? Really taking steps to help walk alongside your senior and resisting the urge to really kind of doing it for them, taking over for them. This is really a time for them, the bridge basically from home to the real world, so to speak. And we found that in our experience, the students that have taken advantage of being able to be independent and along with the support of home and school really do thrive when they are on their own. So we do encourage that. And then for those that are not seniors in the audience, we do encourage a lot of different things that you can also be doing too to be moving yourselves toward your future. We use mynextmove.org for students that are researching careers in colleges, and that is the Department of Labor website. So it's always changing, it's always updating. It's a really fantastic resource, and it has great surveys that you can do and get all kinds of information on careers. Obviously, we want students to do their very best all the time, getting help where they need to get help, and especially during senior year, keeping it going, keeping their progress going. We often hear students say, I'm just gonna kind of take it easy senior year. Well, we don't really necessarily want students to take it easy. We would like them to keep it going, I guess would be a good way to say it. Keep it going as they have gone through the first 3 years. We talked about College Day, the Career College Fair. We're opening that to juniors and seniors as a priority. We will have a college fair in the spring at SUNY Oswego, date to be announced. And then for juniors and sophomores, the PSAT is coming up on October 12th, and there is the deadline to register for that is on the 30th, and then there was an email that went out through Parent Square. Okay. NCAA eligibility, just a small blurb about that, because we do have students who are going to play sports at the next level. And if, depending on the level, depending on the division they were playing for, the level that they can play for, if it's at the 1 or 2 level, there is very specific academic eligibility requirements for that. So we just want to make mention of that to students who are out there who think they might have that ability to do that at that level. Division 3 is not as much of a requirement, but it's just important to know that it's important for the students to communicate with their counselor if they are a student who might be playing at the Division 1 or 2 level, because there again are academic requirements that we would want to help make sure that your student has. And again, of course, striving for independence, seeking help when needed, learning how to communicate with teachers, coaches, counselors, adults, other students. Those are all the life skills that we really want our students to have as they leave here. And now I'm happy to transition this over to our expert in the room, and that is Molly Dorsey, who is the Senior Financial Aid Advisor from SUNY Oswego. She's going to be here to share all of her wisdom, all things financial aid. So we welcome her. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Molly Dorsey from Financial Aid. There's been a lot of changes with the FAFSA this past year, so I'm highlighting some of that and explaining how to apply. So what is financial need and how is it determined? The FAFSA is the federal aid application. When you fill that out, it requests a lot of information. One of the new things that I'll talk about, it links to the IRS and imports the tax information. So the SAI is the Student Aid Index. That's the number that the FAFSA generates. So the aid that you're eligible for federally is based on that number. The cost of attendance varies by school. That's the estimate for what you'll need for the year. And the cost of attendance is based on tuition, fees, room, board, books, personal expenses. It can be confusing when you first start school because people think it's a bill. It's just an estimate for financial aid purposes. Financial aid is scholarships, grants, loans, and employment opportunities. Loans, people don't think of as financial aid, but a lot of financial aid is loans. The scholarships, grants, and employment opportunities are not repaid, only the loans are, and not until after you're out of school. So examples of grant and scholarship aid. Federally, Pell is the one that most people have heard of. That is determined by the FAFSA if you're eligible. SEOG is kind of an addition onto Pell. It's a federal grant, but it's based through each campus. So different campuses have different allotments. So depending on the school you apply to, if you're offered SEOG at one school, you may not get it from another school, and that's based on how much they have. The only requirement for SEOG is that you're eligible for Pell. The TEACH grant is a federal grant for certain education programs, and that you apply for through the school, but it's a federal grant. The New York State Grants and Scholarships, TAP, is the big one. APS, which is TAP for part-time students, although they've changed things the past few years and there's more part-time TAP, which is more than, we don't need to get into that now. And the Excelsior, which is the free tuition in New York State that there's a lot of rules to. There's also institutional scholarships, more so at private schools, and then private scholarships that are scholarships you would apply for outside of the school that you're attending. So the 25-26 FAFSA, this past year for 24-25 was the first year of the new FAFSA. So you fill out the FAFSA, you get your SAI, and the FAFSA is sent to the school. The student, for a dependent student, the student and at least one parent need an FSA ID and to sign the FAFSA. And then you'll also use that for other things on the federal websites. So you can set up your FSA ID anytime. So you can do that now, even though the FAFSA is not open yet, you can go on and create your user IDs. And I'll go over more of these websites. So the FAFSA Simplification Act is what made the changes to the FAFSA this past year. It was, for people that are just filling out the FAFSA the first time, it is probably easier. There's not as many questions, they cut back. For people who have already had kids in school and filled out a FAFSA before, we're very confused, but a lot of that is because it was very different from what they were used to. So if you're filling out the 25-26 FAFSA, you'll use the tax information from 2023 taxes. But now the IRS data retrieval tool is required, so for a lot of people, you'll just grant permission to use it, and that's all you have to do. The TAP application should be available once the FAFSA is. TAP is the state. This year, so last year, everything was delayed because of the changes. This year, there's still issues because of the changes. They're saying that the FAFSA will be open December 1st. We'll believe it when it happens, but we're hopeful that December 1st is when the FAFSA will open this year. TAP should be open at the same time. TAP will be open December 1st, I'm pretty sure, but hopefully the FAFSA will be too. So things that changed with FAFSA simplification, they replaced the EFC with the SAI, which was really just wording. EFC stood for expected family contribution, which was usually not what a family could contribute. So it was just confusing terminology. SAI stands for Student Aid Index. They changed the way they calculate family size and number in college, which resulted in issues for some people who have multiple students in college, but you can appeal that to specific to your school to have that calculated into your SAI. It expanded access to Pell Grants, and it streamlined the form. It got rid of a lot of questions, and then required the IRS link. So challenges that we had over the past year, everything was delayed. They told us last year the FAFSA would open December 1st. It didn't open until December 30th, I think. And then it was open intermittently throughout January. And then even when it did open, normally they would start sending the FAFSAs to schools as soon as people filled it out. That was delayed. They didn't send FAFSA records to schools until April. Schools had to push out their decision dates because there was no financial aid information. We're hoping that this coming year that's going to be resolved. It's getting better slowly, but there's still been some issues. So if there are FAFSA issues, don't panic. Know that everyone in the country is having the same issues. A few of the questions are poorly worded. The one question that you'll see when you complete the FAFSA, if parents are completely unwilling to provide information, then students can apply for only the unsubsidized loan. The way that question is worded, a lot of students were answering yes to not being able to provide parental information, and mostly they were answering yes to that because their parent wasn't home when they were filling out the FAFSA. So there were a lot of FAFSAs across the country that had to be corrected. So that's a question to be aware of. There was a couple other questions that just the wording on them was confusing. There were some issues at the beginning with the signatures and providing permission. We still see some where the parent signs the FAFSA but didn't check the box to give permission for the IRS information. We're still dealing with corrections when we go in to correct a FAFSA, there's still some difficulties there. And a big one for you will be the link to the state application. Normally when you fill out the FAFSA, on the confirmation page that it's submitted, there's a link that says, do you want to do your state application now? And you can click it, and that sometimes was there and sometimes was not there this past year. You can still just go to the state website and fill out the application, but sometimes you have to wait a week after your FAFSA if you don't use the link at the end. So that was confusing. So like I said, we're hoping for big improvements this year, but we'll see. Some really important tips and tricks when you're filling things out. Verify your social security number and date of birth. When you are creating your FSA ID, both the student and the parent, don't use the autofill, and make sure use the show text and make sure your social security number and your date of birth are correct. When it is not, it will cause issues for all your years of school. The social security number, you'll just have to redo everything. The date of birth, we've seen students where they got it wrong once and it just year after year is flipping back and forth between the correct and incorrect, and it delays all their age. So be very careful. Don't lose or forget your ID and password. You're going to use these for all your years of school and beyond. If you take out loans, federal loans, you'll also use this to log in and view your federal loans. So, and if there's parents who have already created an ID for an older student, you'll use the same ID. If you have younger students, you'll use it for them too. Don't try to make a new ID. Only if you got your social security number wrong. If you forget when you're logging in, if you get the wrong password error, don't do it more than twice because it'll lock you out for 24 hours. If you have a hyphenated last name, or if you have a suffix like junior or the third, make sure how you're entering it on your FSA ID, remember how you entered it. Because when you fill out everything, it has to match. So some people will put junior on one and then forget and enter it without junior, and that can cause issues. So you can use it, fill it in how you want your name to be, but just remember how you filled it in. Make sure you're following the password rules. If you're filling it out, it's best for either all to be together, have the student fill out theirs, parent fill out theirs, so you're not crossing over information. And then hopefully know who is a parent and who has to sign. One of the things that was a little bit confusing in the wording on the new FAFSA is only one parent has to sign it, and a lot of people thought that both parents did. So then there was kind of a scramble, or they thought there were errors because only one parent had signed, but only one parent needs to sign. If parents are divorced, then it's whichever parent provides at least 50% of the support, that's who should be on the FAFSA, not both parents. If that parent is remarried, then it's the parent and step-parent who have to be included. They have a lot of little graphics and charts of who is a parent and who to include. And hopefully the TAP application will be available at the end of the FAFSA, but we'll see. This is studentaid.gov. This is where you can access all the federal stuff. They used to have several different websites, and they've combined it, thankfully, into one. You can see I circled in the upper right the create account. So that if you want to go on now and create your accounts, you can do that, and then they're ready. The FAFSA form is up. You can either use the link on the main page, although the main page could change, but it's right there, the FAFSA form menu that will take you right to the FAFSA. When you click on that, it'll take you here and you'll start a new form. If during the year you need to make a correction, you'll do access an existing form. But to start with, you'll start a new form. If you don't need to make corrections, then don't go on and play with things, because some people will do that and will end up causing errors. The state aid, TAP and Excelsior. New York State TAP, it was a big news this year. It used to be net taxable income of $80,000 or less, and they increased it to $125,000 or less. So that was great news for a lot of people. The minimum award used to be $500, and they upped it to $1,000. So it's on a scale depending on the household net taxable income of how much you're eligible for, somewhere from $1,000 to $5,665. If you're attending a SUNY school, you'll receive a SUNY tuition credit that is an additional amount on top of the TAP. The Excelsior goes by, the TAP goes by the New York State net taxable income. Excelsior goes by the federal adjusted gross income, up to $125,000. Excelsior has a tuition credit as well. So the actual Excelsior award is up to $5,500, and then there's an Excelsior tuition credit that increases it to the total tuition. Excelsior only covers tuition. It does not cover room and board, it does not cover fees, it is tuition only. If you receive aid besides the Excelsior that can count for tuition, then it counts against what you can get in the Excelsior award. So if you're receiving the maximum amount of Pell, you're not eligible for the Excelsior because that's already more than the SUNY tuition amount. That is the most confusing thing about the Excelsior, because when you do the application, it might say, congratulations, you qualify for the Excelsior. But then when we look at your aid, you're eligible for $0. So it depends on, and the main things that count against the Excelsior are the TAP and Pell, and then some outside scholarships. It just depends on how they're worded. If it says it can be used for tuition, then it counts against what you can receive in the Excelsior. There's other rules for the Excelsior award. You have to enroll in at least 12 credits a semester, but you have to earn at least 30 credits a year. If you have AP courses or things from high school, so you're bringing in additional credits when you start, you have to be at 30 credits at the end of your freshman year, 60 credits at the end of your sophomore year. So if you have extra credits that you're bringing in at the beginning, there's a little bit of leeway on the 30 credits per year, but 12 credits per semester. And if you don't meet those requirements, you lose it and you can't get it back. For the Excelsior, you have to commit to living and working in New York State for the number of years you receive it. If you don't fulfill that, it turns into a loan, but it's a zero interest loan. So if your choice is between accepting the Excelsior and taking a loan, but you don't want to do the state, living in New York State, you're not sure, take the Excelsior anyway, because the worst thing that happens is it becomes a loan, but it's a zero interest loan. And these you apply for at hesc.ny.gov. I've got a list of links, both in this presentation, and there's a separate list, a separate handout that is on the portal that you can download. This is what the TAP application, the landing page looks like. It's tap.hesc.ny.gov/TOTW is tap on the web. And you just click Start My Application. If for your first time applying, you'll use the first time users link. It's a different set of rules for what your user ID and your PIN is from the FAFSA. But again, hold on to this, don't lose it, you'll use it for all 4 years. This is the main page, hesc.ny.gov. If you go to the Find Aid, New York State Grants and Scholarships, you'll find the Excelsior. Excelsior is the only application that's open for a limited amount of time. So FAFSA right now, for the current school year, the FAFSA has been open since December 31st and remains open until the end of the school year. So we get people sometimes who don't fill out their FAFSA until April. They don't get any aid until then, but you can still fill it out for the whole year. With the Excelsior, it's only open for a limited time. You can sign up to be notified. That's how we find out as well. They don't announce it ahead of time. I mean, sometimes it'll be a few weeks ahead that they'll say, this is what the dates are gonna be, but there's not a set date that it definitely opens. So we recommend to everyone to sign up for the notification. And it does open for the spring semester, so if you miss the fall one, you can do the application for spring. The first year, it's more involved, and then after that, it renews with your TAP application. Scholarships, are they worth applying for? Yes. There's tons of private scholarships out there. Take the time, search for them, apply for them. There's a lot of money out there that people are not applying for. And I've got some links to scholarship search sites. The worst thing that happens is you don't get the scholarship, but if you don't apply, you don't get anything. Student borrowing, loans, the federal limit is $5,500 for a freshman. It doesn't come close to covering the cost. Pell and TAP help, but a lot of these loan limits have been here since the 90s, and they haven't increased them. Well, obviously the cost of attending college has gone up significantly. Other types of loans besides the federal student loans are Parent Plus loans, which are a federal loan that's in the parent's name. It cannot be transferred to the student. And then private alternative loans. The recommendation we give people between those two is whoever you get the best interest rate from. The federal loans, it's a fixed interest rate per year. Alternative private loans can go either way. They're through outside banks. College costs. This is a comparison of SUNY Oswego, OCC, and Syracuse University. You can see the main difference is in the tuition. The SUNY Oswego cost per year, and these are billed by semester. You'll see things that can be confusing because you'll see the aid is by the year. You'll see things like this, the cost for the year, but when the bills come out, you're billed by semester. So for SUNY Oswego, the total per year for on-campus, $25,851. If you are living home and attending, then it drops down to $88.25 per year. Community college, not all community colleges have on-campus housing. That's why I use OCC. So the costs are a little bit lower. A lot of people will go for their associates and then transfer into a SUNY school. Private college is obviously a lot more, but they also have bigger endowments, private money that they can give out more scholarships. A lot of private schools will offer scholarships that will bring their cost down to a similar price of a SUNY school. So when you're getting your aid, if you're applying to private schools and they offer you a big scholarship, look at the bottom line, because it could be that it's bringing it down to the same price as a SUNY. Just don't be wowed by a big scholarship if it is still really, really expensive. Other options that schools have, time payment plans, monthly installment plans. If you have a 529 plan, you can pay with that. If you are applying to private schools, besides the FAFSA and the state application, most private schools will require the CSS profile. I work at SUNY, so we don't deal with this. I don't know a ton about it. My niece went to a private school, so I did help her when she was in school a while ago. But it's mostly the same information from the FAFSA. Sometimes they'll require hard copies or for you to upload documents. They sometimes want more bank account information, proof. You enter that on the FAFSA, but it's self-reported. Some of the private schools will want to see actual statements. So if you're applying to private schools, you check your school, but most of them will require this as well. FAFSA completion help. There's different workshops you can attend. Some are virtual, some are in person. There's SUNY events now listed on this FAFSA workshops website. There'll be more added to it. The New York State events, they'll add more dates as well as the FAFSA opens. We at SUNY Oswego have a new group. It's an AmeriCorps group called the FAFSA Completion Corps, and they hold workshops and help students fill out FAFSAs. You can go to any of these. You don't have to be attending SUNY Oswego. You can come get help. Important links and numbers, and again, these are on the handout that you can download. Studentaid.gov is all the federal, HESC is the New York State, FSA Information Center. This number, it was pretty hard to get through this year because of all the FAFSA issues, but as they're improving things, there's much lower wait times. If you have trouble on your FAFSA, if you're having trouble entering a signature, usually that's who you have to talk to. They do have an online chat too, but if it's not working, that's the phone number for everything. HESC, the New York State agency, after COVID, they took down their phone numbers and they have left it that way, so you cannot just go on the website and call them. You have to schedule an appointment for a call. Part of that is that with the Excelsior, it's all out of the same small office. They have not increased the office, so they cover all the awards for the state, so that's why you have to schedule a call with them. And during busy times of year, sometimes it can take a month to get an appointment for a call. The CSS profile, and then the FAFSA workshop links. These are scholarship searches. Get out there and search, make a spreadsheet. Everybody can get Google Sheets now. Make yourself a spreadsheet of scholarships, what you're applying for, keep track of it, what the requirements are, what the deadlines are. There's scholarships listed on studentaid.gov, the federal site. You can look at our scholarship listing. These first 5 are on our list. They're search sites for scholarships. We also have links directly to scholarships. Most private lenders like Sallie Mae, Citizens Bank, College Ave have an outreach program, so they have fantastic scholarship searches and offers. Sallie Mae gives out money every month. You do not need to be a customer. And one thing I didn't touch on as much, make sure I know Mrs. Roman mentioned this with having students do things on their own, especially the way the FAFSA is now. Make sure your student should really be the one creating their own account, or do it all together. The way it is now, the student starts the FAFSA and then sends an invitation to the parent to fill in their information and to sign it. So if you do it, if the student starts and then the parent does their portion, then there's a lot less chance of information crossing over and getting social security numbers mixed up, date of birth mixed up, names. So that is a great piece of advice, to have the student start doing things on their own. I know I just gave you loads of information. Does other questions? Do you have a question? Or you just, yeah. Yes. So the question is there one place where people can go to start? Oh yeah, I would recommend that if you do it at home, do it together. So the student, but do it together. Don't just the parent go on and do it. Very often we see cases where the parent has done everything and they have used their own email address. So then the student comes in for help about something and can't access their account because it's under the parent's email address. So that's why I say do it separately, but you don't have to be separately. You can do it together, but be entering you're entering your own information. Does that help? But you can attend, if you go to one of these filing workshops, you both go. You're welcome. Yes.
It's kind of a foolish question, but when the student puts their email address in, then they should be using their personal email, not their school email.
Yes, that is a good point. The question was, should the student be using their personal email, not their school email? Yes, it's better to not use your high school email because you won't be using that soon. Use your personal email. You can switch it later, but make sure you're using an email account that you're going to have access to. Thank you. Yes?
Where do we find certain deadlines for some of this? I know we didn't apply till December 1st. When we at first apply, will it then tell us what the deadline is for?
So the question is, what are the deadlines for things? The FAFSA, so most things don't have a deadline. I mean, they have a deadline, but it's the end of the school year that the aid is for. So
The earlier you get it in.
the earlier the better, because some aid is campus-based and it goes to first come, first serve. But as far as deadlines, the only thing that has a set deadline that you could miss as far as aid is the Excelsior. The FAFSA and the TAP, it's the end of the school year that the aid is for. And if you're applying for scholarships and things, that'll be specific to different scholarships. Oh, yeah.
Where would you get the STEM scholarship?
There's a STEM scholarship through New York State,
Right.
so it's on the same link as where the TAP and Excelsior are. And usually with this, I think the state STEM replaces the TAP, so you can only get one or the other, but I think it's the same amount.
I read that it pays, it's like the Excelsior, it's like 50% of the class, you know, STEM field. In a STEM field, maybe the top 10%.
Yeah, the STEM, the question is about the STEM scholarship.
It's in the same place. Is that open now?
That one, nothing is probably open right now for next year. Most things open when the FAFSA opens. Last year, the New York State applications opened. They were going to not open until the FAFSA did. Then, because the FAFSA kept being delayed, they opened them earlier, but it didn't link as well.
Is there just a
So-
limited time on the STEM, like the Excelsior? Is there a limited window?
No, Excelsior's the only one.
Oh,
Yeah. So if for some reason this year the FAFSA is delayed again, I recommend not. If they open the state application before they open the FAFSA, I would still wait and do them at the same time.
Thank you for all those questions. We just wanted to kind of wrap up just a little bit about our kind of tailing end, the scholarship piece that kind of comes after the students apply for the most part. We do have a scholarship booklet that students, our seniors, definitely want to look into and apply for those scholarships. That becomes available usually in January and February, and it can be found on our website under, it's the Oswego High School website, under the Counseling Services tab and available scholarships. It's also a place to keep going throughout the fall and throughout the year, because any national scholarships we get, we will advertise there. So along with the ones Molly mentioned, all the ways to search, be also searching on our website too. One thing to mention too is that, and I didn't mention this earlier, we talked about the college application processing form and that kind of being the way to organize and inform your counselor when you are applying, because we won't know that you've applied to a school unless you tell us. So that form is what we want to have inform us that you have applied and that you need for us to be acting on your behalf. One thing we certainly want to make sure people are planning for is time, because it's important to build in time. What we ask for is 10 school days prior to a deadline. So if you have a January 1st deadline, that backs up even further because we've got the break for school. So 10 school days prior to a deadline is when your counselor should have that processing form. We want to make sure that we are not rushing through anything. It's important, and we have all kinds of tasks that we're working on in a day, not just with our seniors, but with all of our grade levels on all the various things that we do with the hats that we wear. So again, just for the sake of the students' best success, is we ask for that time to be built in. I think that was it. Oh, and lastly, we talked about the Google Classrooms for the senior classes and the junior classes. Parents can ask their students to invite them to that classroom. There is a lot of information that gets posted there. A lot of it we do send by Parent Square, but if you want to be sure you're not missing anything as parents and you'd like to kind of be side by side and getting the information, you can ask your student to invite you to that classroom. Okay, so just kind of wanted to wrap up with some of those procedural things on our school end. Are there any questions about anything? I know that we've probably covered a lot. Yes?
In that processing form, is that what kicks off their transcripts and things to those schools?
Yes. Yeah, it would be, the student would be letting us know where they're applying, how they're applying, if there's a letter of recommendation that is required by a counselor, a link to that OHS Succeed survey. And again, we're hoping that students, with that senior review, kind of really starts everything. So that's why we kind of mentioned that first. The senior review is where we want our student to come in and meet with the counselor, even if they don't know what they're doing yet. Some students are reluctant to come and meet with us because they feel embarrassed that what is my counselor going to think that I feel clueless, I don't know what I'm doing. We do not feel that way. We want to meet our students where they are, and we will help every step of the way. As little or as much help as our students need, we are happy to do. It just is, we appreciate the communication. So, does that answer the question? Any other questions? I know we've done a lot. Yes?
You looking at me?
Yes.
I can't see your face, so I can't.
Sorry.
So do the kids get something, like physical paper that they can, like guidelines that they can follow so they can, you know what I mean? Or is it all based online?
The question is there something that the students get that's like kind of a step checklist or something? There is, we did share, there is no paper form of the newsletter, but the newsletter that we shared on Parent Square can be printed. If students need it to be printed, we could certainly help them do that in our office, where it gives a lot of steps to be taking. So, and again, it's communication with your counselor is really important. I think that the college application processing form, if you look at that, will kind of show you some steps also. So there's kind of some built-in steps, and also the colleges that the students apply to will show you what's required, and those are in steps also, kind of. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sure. Yes?
I just have a question. I know that you guys about the year got replaced with something else, and I how that know one of the parents had access to that.
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear you. I don't know.
Sorry, you had to create ED, and I know that you guys stopped using that software or app. I know it's being replaced. Do you know when, or an estimated date when the parents will have access to that to see all the everything that's going on like that?
Yep, that's a great question. The question was that we did use Jupiter Grades, and now we've changed to School Tool Parent Portal. Students are just getting rolled out to being able to access their grades and assignments online on their School Tool portal. Right now, parents are being asked to kind of check with their students to have them open it with them. I believe parents are going to be having their own access to it in the next week or so. It was going to be in October, and I think we were told that it was being moved up because we know the importance of parents wanting to be making sure that students are doing what they need to be doing and all of that. So that is coming soon, but for now, students should have access to their grades, and so parents can be asking students to open that with them.
Is that also going to be available in app form? Is it just a portal you have to go online to access everything?
I do not have an answer to that, I'm sorry. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if there's an app for School Tools. Anyone know if there's an app? There is an app. I'm getting a thumbs up, so good stuff. Oh, okay. I think what I just heard was that the students learned in English classes how to set up their account and how to open their account. I'm assuming maybe that the app is also being shared by the English teachers. So the English, if the students can ask their English teachers, they can probably get that information. Great question. Anybody else have questions? Yes?
You mentioned the senior newsletter. Is that, what's that, did you send that to parents?
We sent it through Parent Square. It was sent probably a couple weeks ago. It is also in the Google Classroom. It is, I mean, it's a newsletter, but it's more like a guide. It's several pages long. It's quite involved. Anybody else have questions? We thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know it's a lot of information, and we are here right there with you students, and we're here with you parents to be supporting our students along the way. Yes, we want them to be independent, our seniors going off to college or to the workforce or the military, but in no way did I mean that we want to like cut them off and make them do it all alone and have us be on our own hoping they do it. So it is a partnership. And we feel like we are your partners too, so please do feel free to reach out to your counselor and your child's counselor. We definitely are part of this process with you, and we want all the best for our students. So thank you so much for joining us. I believe that the open house has now started, so you're welcome to go and meet up with teachers. And thank you to Molly Dorsey again for sharing her expertise. We appreciate her being here. Thank you so much.